Hello and welcome back to Genesis Designs and Modelcraft, and today I've got another quick look review for you, and this time it's something a little bit out of the ordinary, and it's not in a red box. Some might say it's in the opposite colour of box. It's a blue box, and this is a Trumpeter kit, and possibly might be one of my first Trumpeter reviews on the channel. I'm sure someone will correct me if it's not, but this is the first Trumpeter kit I've had a proper look at in quite some time, actually. So why the Intruder, you might really ask, and the answer is I don't honestly know. I think the Intruder's a cool looking jet. I did enjoy that film too, Flight of the Intruder. I watched that again quite recently, actually. It's a cool looking jet. I have previously built an A6. I built the old Hasegawa A6, the one with the big doofus on the fin, growler is it? Which that kit is of its time. It's a perfectly nice looking model, to be fair, when it's made, but it will fight you all the way. So are there any other good Intruders around yet in 72nd? I'm not even sure. As I say, this is outside my wheelhouse, as people might like to say, but yeah, I think it's a cool looking jet. So I was at Antics in Bristol, I don't know, a few weeks back, a month or so, and I saw this and I thought and then I was put off by the price, and I put it down again, and then I picked it up again and I thought I'll have a look in the box. So I had a look in the box, and I changed my mind and I bought it. So $29.99. So I'd imagine is somewhere around about the standard normal model shop price. You may be able to get it for slightly less online, but if you do have a model shop that's local or you know, sensibly local to you, use them. You know, because it's really handy to just be able to pop into a shop and get that one pot of paint that you need, instead of having to put an order together and wait, you know, 2 to 5 to 7 to 10 days for it to arrive. So rant over. Here it is, Trumpeter A6. So I'll apologise ahead of time without really meaning it. I'm not an expert. I'm here to show you what's in the box and I'll talk about what I think of it. So if I get stuff wrong, don't stab me in the comments, okay? Nice box art, anyway. Let's see what's inside. Put those over here. Now, look at this. Look at this packaging. We've got a heap, absolute stack. I'm going to go sprues today because it's not an airfit. Stack of sprues in here. Just loads and loads and loads of them. So, I'm going to... There's even one inside bubble wrap, look. I didn't get this posted to me, this is as it comes. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 sprues plus transparencies. Suddenly, 30 quid doesn't seem quite so bad. And I'm wondering now if I'm even going to get all this back in the box when I'm done. Hey ho. So let's begin with this one. So they won't be in any order. I'm sure you don't need them to be. First one then. Turns out this is spruce C, and as you can clearly see with your own eyes, this is the inboard segments of the wings. Now let me find my scientist glasses, pop these on so I can even see what I'm doing. And frankly, these are absolutely lovely. We do have engraved rivet style detail, we've got engraved panel lines, and all of it's really very fine. It's not quite as fine, certainly in terms of the rivet detail, as you can expect from the likes of Edward, but it's very reasonable. Tiny little bits of flash around some of the edges. A one-piece nose cone. Let's come closer. There you go. Some frankly quite delicious detail there. So it looks like we can have folded wings then, which is nice for those of us who don't have multiple banks of display cabinets to put things in, which I'm guessing is most of us. Next up, I think it's nice to be able to pose naval aircraft with the wings folded anyway, because one of the big things that makes them stand out from their land-based counterparts is the fact that you can, right? So, polystyrene sheet, that stuff wrapped around that, presumably to protect these smaller parts, though honestly I don't think any of them really need it. So what we've got here, this is sprue E. It's a whole bunch of small and detailed parts, a lot of cockpit area stuff, some jet pipes, random things, main undercarriage legs. The rivety sort of detail is a bit more pronounced on these tail planes, at least it is on this side. The hook aperture there. But do remember, this is 72nd scale. There's really quite a lot going on there. I recognise that there's undoubtedly a lot more going on the real thing, but 72nd scale, pretty sure this area on the Hasegawa kit was just flat. There's your nose leg. It's very, very nice indeed. Lots and lots of detail. Yes, it's all simplified, but there's your jet pipes. Again, far superior to the old Hasegawa kit. This is the kind of detail that if you Spanish school it, or maybe we should refer to it as Spencer Pollarding it now, you know, where you sort of almost excessively highlight and shadow everything to make it pop. This stuff, it's enough detail to look really seriously very, very good. And that is not intended in any way as an offensive remark towards Spencer, but he does do that whole, it did used to be called the Spanish school, you know, when you draw stripes on things and highlight things deliberately rather than just dry brushing. You literally will paint highlights onto things. It's a bit like doing figure modelling, but on not a figure subject really. So here we are. This is upside down. This is sprue D, and here we have the outboard wing sections and a bunch of control surfaces, not services, silly lady. Got some slats and flaps here, which, I mean, it looks like you can have everything out on this, so you can have it wings spread with everything drooping. This is very impressive stuff from Trumpeter. Really, really fine panel lines. The rivet detail, I think it's going to be okay once painted. But again, a 72nd scale kit with, you know, with the option for extended flaps and slats, it's relatively rare even now. Here we go again. There's some detail for you. It is all nicely done. None of the sprue gates are just horribly big or in stupid places. It does have the bobble things, but I know those are required to allow the plastic to get through all the areas, especially on thinner parts. But they are intruding slightly onto the surface of the part, which I don't really like because it makes cleanup take a lot longer than it needs. And you do have this sort of slight, if you look at the sort of actuators or the stubs there, I don't know if it's going to be very obvious on film, but you see just little raggly taggly random bits of moulding and sort of flashy stuff. It's no big deal, but it does require cleanup for best results. What's in this bubble wrap? Why on earth is it in bubble wrap? I think this kit could have been 25 quid if they'd have all chucked it all in one bag, right? Bubble wrap bag reveals sprue F Foxtrot, and this has got wing fold bits and undercarriage doors and stuff that I don't know. That's air brakes, isn't it? Some moulded extended air brakes. Just lots of detail pieces. Again, there's nothing much here that I think could have been damaged, particularly maybe these. She's detail. It's really, really nice. This is so far ahead of anything I've seen from Trumpeter. As I say, it's a long time since I built a Trumpeter kit. They're so hit and miss, aren't they? You know, some Trumpeter kits are genuinely some of the best out there. You know, for certain subjects and scales, some of their kits are excellent, and others are about as far away from excellent as you can really get. So, for some reason, the left-hand fuselage half required protection, whilst the right did not. Okay. Same. The detail appears slightly heavier in some areas on these parts than it is on the wings, but not to the point of it being bad. Some pretty impressive mouldings going on here. Note there is a mould seam along here. It's a multi-part mould to get these shapes and still have that level of crispness on the underside. You could see here how the panel lines don't disappear towards the edge, which just shows you that a separate mould part is employed to allow that to be done, and that's the seam along there. That will need to be cleaned up, but it should just be a matter of a little bit of sanding and it's gone. Air brake bay, or is it, I don't know what bay it is. This bay here, it's got detail, got intake parts here, and it does look as though we have at least a rudimentary intake there. Again, that the Hasegawa kit has none. They end here. Step areas have detail inside them, and the fin is moulded in. I have to say, it really does look very, very good. No detail to speak of on the internal part of the cockpit area there. Probably isn't necessary. But it's a very complex moulding. It's impressive stuff. And this is sprue A alpha, which leaves two sprues which you get two each of, which predictably is going to be stores. Two of sprue H, which includes bombs. The small ones appear to me to be Mark 82s. Don't know off the top of my head what these are. I'm quite sure the instructions will detail that further. So that's that one, and then this one G. We have ejection seats, fuel tanks, some bigger bombs, the triple ejector rack pylon edition here, wheels, this is main wheels and nose wheels, and some form of GBU there. A compressor face for the engine. Again, really good detail. Look at this ejection seat, 72nd scale. Very, very nice. And likewise, actually, this pylon. It's very, very impressive stuff. And yeah, honestly, that £30 price tag doesn't look quite so bad at this point. Let's check out the Canopy then. Okay, straight away this is less impressive. So there's a slight double bubble shape in this main canopy part. If I recall correctly, these are slide back on the real aircraft. Here's that characteristic Grumman Goose style windscreen, and it's very, very nicely moulded. It's optically very good, not too much wobbliness at all. These are very good. It's a little bit of distortion in the side panes. I think that's to be expected. There you go, look at that. Lovely stuff. A couple of small little lenses and what have you. Now the problem here is the seam line. So in order to get this cross section, which again I'm not sure if it will appear on video, but you can certainly feel it, there's a need for a multi-part mould, which means mould seams. And the mould seam in this case runs straight down there, look. Now I've wanted for a while to do a book of Genesis on how to remove seam lines in canopies, and have been obstinately refused. A canopy just hasn't come along with a nice seam line on it that's a sensible size to do the demo on. So there we go. Trumpeter have done me a solid. I can use this to demonstrate how to remove seam lines from clear parts. So stay tuned, folks, for a video coming soon to a YouTube near you where Genesis shows how to fix mould lines in canopies. Right, so put that back in its bag and let's look at the paperwork. Let's quite the stack of it. Decal sheet. Let's look at that last bit of colour towards the end. So you get a leaflet advertising a few products from Trumpeter. 16th scale Tiger 1 medium production. Very nice. And what do we have here? 35th scale Apache AH-64A late. And bizarrely an advert for the very kit we're looking at. A-6E TRAM Intruder. Actual instructions. Usefully for video purpose, they are in landscape format. So on the front, as you can see, side elevation of the aircraft, a little bit of bump. And the first page is the parts layout. So as one might expect, the cockpit comes first. It seems that we have decals for the instrument panel should you wish to use them. All very logical. Then nose undercarriage and its bay. Left and right mains, left and right air intakes. As I said, complete with a duct. It isn't going to be a very big duct, and it will be very difficult to remove the seam lines if you're the sort that's bothered about that. And then we bring those assemblies together, trapping the nose wheel assembly and the cockpit assembly between the halves, and there's that hook recess. Then at a very early stage, adding canopies, and it mentions a die cut mask here, which yes, it's in the decal sheets. We'll look at that in a minute. 10 grams of nose weight is suggested. plenty of room in that radome for enough weight, and if you can't get enough in the radome, you'll be able to sort of stick it here in this area, sort of behind, immediately behind, and possibly in front of and over the nose bay as well. So investigate that before joining the fuselage halves. Then the inboard section of the wings with attendant flaps and stuff. Adding those to your pre-built fuselage, and along with some intakes and vents. And the outboard wing section. And so here you can go with closed speed brakes or the open. And it looks as though you can do the flaps and slats raised or lowered as well. There's the other wing, and there we are, adding it. Okay, so you have a completely separate wing fold part if you want the wings folded to allow you to attach the wing. There we are, adding the folded wings, and then we've got underwing pylons. Undercarriage doors. Looking complicated, isn't it? And then stores. So centerline fuel tank, wing mounted fuel tanks, a Mark 20, a Mark 81, an M117 and a GBU8. Those are your options included in the kit. There's the MER, multiple ejector rack, and Mark 82, so you can put 6 on each one. And there is a suggested weapons load stores load page to show you what you could potentially fit. A lot. Very, very nice. Okay then, last but hopefully not least then. Oh no, hang on. Not last. I managed to lose the colour scheme info. So we have two full colour sheets here which detail. So this one purely covers the weapons, how to paint those and which decals to put on them. Colour callouts are Mr. Hobby, which is the acrylic version of guns, Acrisian, which is their water-based acrylic, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya and Humbrol. Quite extensive. That shows how they suggest you paint the weapons, and we have two marking options. This is the box art aircraft. It's US Marine Corps VMA 522 Hawks A-6E TRAM, build number 161189. It doesn't tell you any more than that, where the aircraft was, what time period it is, or anything else. And what I'm assuming is the TPS. It's three shades of grey. Now scheme B is US Navy VA196 main battery. Again, no information other than that, but you can see from the markings this was USS Carl Vinson, and this one has some colourful spade artwork on the fin. It's a black fin with a lot of very colourful artwork on it. They're both really quite nice choices. So now finally the decal sheet. And die cut masks. So the masks then, firstly, this is really weird masking tape. It's so odd, and I can't even, it doesn't even look like it's cut. You can see the masks are numbered, it's printed on there, which is nice because it's hard actually with a lot of mask sets to figure out what goes where. What it can be. Oh yeah, I can see the cut lines now. But this tape is very rough. It feels like crepe paper. There we go. It's very thin. I can see through it, and be interesting to see how they perform. But it's a very nice touch that they're actually included. It's nice that manufacturers other than Edward are starting to do this. And the tracing paper is sellotaped onto the sheet. This is something Trumpeter have done for a long time. It's not a bad idea. Okay, and there we have the decals, which appear very nice actually. The colours maybe just a touch overexposed, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. By overexposed I mean slightly sort of lacking in colour saturation, and I mean slightly. We're not talking Edward levels of 1 here, it's just slightly off from being super bright, but personally I don't think that's a bad thing. They're very thin and nicely trimmed. They've got that very slight sort of tapered edge to them that the Edward decals have, which helps them hide in your paint job a lot better. And it's a reasonably complete decal sheet. We do not have 48 zillion stencils, which can only be a good thing. There's no information on there to say where they're printed either, so I'll bring that up closer. See what I mean? There's slight paleness about the colours there. There's your film. And we do have internal instrument panels and such, and various markings for the weapons themselves. Well, what do you think of that? £30 for a 72nd scale jet kit. I don't like it, but it seems to be becoming the norm of late. I do think that cheap model kits are going to be a thing of the past. If they aren't already, they're going to be really quite soon, with the way things are shaping up around the place. But purely based on what is actually in this box, I don't even think £30 is bad value. The A6 is a reasonably chunky beast when it's built up. There's an awful lot of detail here, there's an awful lot of parts. It's a very complete package. There's just one thing that's missing, immediately noticeably missing, that I think most people will want in their models, even if they're not looking for a show quality finish, and that's seat harnesses. The seat straps and harnesses, especially on ejection seats, are such a huge feature visually, and they're not represented at all in this kit. There isn't a decal, there isn't a sort of anything moulded in. It's the only thing missing, a set of harness straps. Other than that, there's every indication from looking at these parts that a really truly impressive rendition of an A6 can be built up from this kit, and I do not doubt that there will be available from the likes of Edward some photo etch harnesses and bits and pieces, probably even brass and seats could be made to work in this. So it's just the one final little piece of the puzzle that if it were included in the kit as part of the kit at this purchase price, it would make this kit a one-stop shop like an Edward Profi pack is, which would go a long way towards tipping people over into being happy to pay £30 for it rather than slightly grudging as I was. Anyway, enough of that. I think it looks a lovely kit, and I think it looks, based on the market as it is now today, not too terrible of a price. Looks very competent, very nicely moulded. So yeah, I'm quite impressed and quite happy with it, and I think £30 on the face of it looks to be pretty reasonable for this. So there we go. Very out of the ordinary for me, I know, and if I've offended anyone with my lack of knowledge, I apologise. But that's it for this one. Quick look at the Trumpeter 1/72 A-6E Intruder. Thank you very, very much for watching. Thanks as always for all of your support, and thank you for the recent influx of support on the Buy Me a Coffee app. All of that is linked below as usual. And with all of that said, I think it only remains for me to say until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.